Hi there, everybody. Welcome back to Leading Our Own Way. I'm your host, Andrew White. I hope you've had a fantastic week. I've had a great week. It's been a great week here in Melbourne, Australia. I hope you've been enjoying the last few episodes. We've had a great start to Leading Our Own Way. We've had a range of different guests all over the world. It's been fantastic. Go and tune into those guys. You will take a little bit from every single one of them. But today's guest, Miss Katie Bunting, a good friend of mine from back in the UK. We used to work together in a high school just outside of Manchester. And she was kind of like the mentor at the school, and she really looked to inspire the children on their career path, which kind of was quite pivotal to her because she changed her life because of that role. She's a singer. She has created some beautiful business that serve the purpose of personal development and helping other women in that space. She's absolutely incredible. We dive deep into her journey of why she did it, from relationships, from her upbringing and her character in school and education. And she's just incredible. It was a great chat. We dive off into other areas as well of life and purpose. It's just such a great chat. I hope you take a listen. Tune in wherever you might be. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube, wherever you want to listen and watch it. But in the meantime, go to www.leadingourownway.com. Check out our weekly guests. I put the episodes and the audio on there too. So whenever you're free, take a bit of a gander. I hope you enjoy it. But you know what I'm going to say. Here's the trailer of me walking down the street. We'll be hearing back in 21 seconds. Enjoy the episode with Katie. Have a great week, everyone. Welcome to Leading Our Own Way. I'm your host, Andrew White, and this is the podcast that unveils captivating narratives of resilience and personal triumph. This podcast is for anyone seeking inspiration and insights on overcoming life's challenges. Follow and subscribe, and then we can lead together forever. Katie Bunting, how are you?
Hello, I'm great, thanks.
You
Had
look
a great
great.
day. I'm very excited about this.
Why are you so excited about this?
Because it's my second one ever. So
Ooh.
It's like new experience for me to do these, being speakers on them.
Who was the other podcast you were on anyway? Little plug.
thiswon'tfixyou.com. It's my friend, long-standing friend, who's a psychotherapist in Manchester, UK. Mm-hmm. And it's a new podcast that she started as well, to try and give people insight into what actually goes on in a therapy room. Nice. For people that are like intrigued and curious. If they hear about it, it might not seem as scary for some of the things that they can speak about.
Why were you a guest on that show?
We have known each other for years. I was mentoring in secondary school that she was teaching at. And we've spoke about shame a lot because of my own journey as well, and working through it similar to herself. And this particular episode was about feeling like you're fundamentally flawed, like how you deal with your own shame and like imposter syndrome and things when you're trying to succeed. So it was just very relevant for both of us because we spoke about that topic a lot.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. I have to check that one out. I have to give that one a listen. Well, we got straight into there, but we'll come back to that. Katie and I know each other from Manchester. We used to work at the same high school where we used to work. What was the role that you did in at that high school that we worked at?
It was IAG mentor, information, advice and guidance. It was the pilot of that job role. So it would never happened in that school before, or any, I think, in that area, in the county and things. And I had to mentor every single pupil 3 times in that year. So they all got a chance 3 times to be sat with someone to speak about what they want, what options they were going to choose, and how I could raise their aspirations, ultimately make them aspire for more, know they can achieve more. It was great. It's really eye-opening.
Yeah, we worked there together I was there for 2.5 years, just shy of 3. How long were you there for?
A year.
Yeah, okay.
Reason being that I saw it through that first year contract, but because it changed me so much, it was almost like we inspired each other. Like I raised the aspirations of a lot of the teenagers, but through doing that job is what took me on a new journey of realizing I'd not given my own singing passion like a good go at seeing where I could take it. So I went back into full-time education after that job for myself, being like a music practitioner. And that is where this journey began for me, that was then into self-employment and coaching people with vocals and expression. And yeah, I think 10 years later, 14 years later now, that was when I was like 25.
Yeah. Yeah, because I started there when I was 25 as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we were
And then
both
I
so
moved to
young.
Australia at 28. Yeah. Now I'm 40.
Is that when you moved to Australia, 28?
When I was
When you were,
28, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's when I moved to Cornwall. How
Oh,
strange.
that is weird.
The
Well,
times would change things.
yeah. So you are currently in Cornwall now then, right?
Yes, a little place called Lostwithiel. I would
Yep.
say village, but apparently I'm not supposed to say that. It's a town, but
Ooh.
it's a small place, but it's lovely, really
And
nice.
so you moved there. How long have you been there now then?
Um, Lostwithiel, I've only been in 6 months, but Cornwall, where I originally moved, about 10 years then now.
Wow.
But on and off, I've gone back home to Manchester a couple of times
Hmm.
for short amounts of time, and then realizing I always need to come back again. And I always miss the ocean. I just belong near the sea. A lot happier.
Yeah. What made you move to Cornwall then all those years ago?
I wasn't happy. Ultimately, I think I was in what spiral a lot of people may be in when you feel like you keep trying different things all the time or you change your job all the time,
Hmm.
but nothing seems to fulfill you. And there's this void that just doesn't get filled. I did that for years prior to being 28. And then when I got to 28, I thought, right, if I don't change something now and make that big change while I have no ties, because I didn't have a mortgage then, I didn't have a partner, I never would. I thought there's going to
Hmm.
be no better time. So for anyone listening, there is no perfect time. Act on something if you want it. And yeah, within a month or a matter of weeks, I was in Cornwall. Just had enough. I think I was tired. I was tired and deflated of trying to feel like enough and trying to land on the thing. And yet it never was. So I knew
Hmm.
that I had to go and just find out who I was. I had to take myself away from everything I knew, everything that was familiar, and everything that you associate with, being growing up, being a teenager, your family was so linked to it all. So I just wanted to have a fresh start and find me.
And we will dive into that. So hold on to those thoughts because that's an area we definitely need to explore. But let's go the opposite way. How are you now that you are living in Cornwall? Did it fix the problem? Did it fix those areas that you've just mentioned, moving to Cornwall?
I would so love to say, yes, it did. In a year, I was just happy and everything made sense. But
Yeah.
no, it's been a journey and a half. And I say that to always be honest, that there's been so much learning. There's been 2 heartbreaks, like moved quite a few times, different areas. Yes, I think now I am happier than I've ever been. I turned 38 this year,
Hmm.
and I finally feel I'm actually at a place where I value all different parts of my life kind of equally. But that's taken a long time to not think that all my happiness would come through work or my
Mm.
significance through work. Now it feels I'm the most balanced. But yeah, it's been through moving around and keep tweaking, keep changing things
Yeah.
when you're not happy.
And that will continue to happen, I'm sure, for the rest of our journey. We have a bit of thing on it seems to be a thing that I've created on this podcast where we have graphs going up and down of life, right? And
Yeah.
you're kind of explaining that in your own way just then.
Mm.
But with how would you then say you are leading your own way now then? Because it's come to this little cliche title where I come back to the guest and go, well, okay, well, how are you leading your own way? Well, how are you leading your own way now, would you say?
It's a great title, though. And I
Oh,
think people say this sort of thing a lot, but when you actually live it, it's another thing, isn't it? I think leading your own way is that you are doing things that go against the grain. You're taking risks, like you'll invest in something when actually maybe it doesn't make sense to. Financially, it's not a wise idea, but long term and for your ultimate mission, it does make sense and it feels right. Um, so yeah, leading my own way, I constantly take risks when things don't feel stable always, or there's no guarantee that something's going to work.
of course.
And I'll put, a program together or try and put a membership together a certain way. Constantly tweaking and trying things. And I think I'm always wanting to, how they say a plane when it actually takes off, it's got its course mapped out, but apparently there's some electronics that it's always having to course correct. It never goes in that straight path.
Oh, didn't know that.
That is what I think I do. Yeah, it's really quite fascinating.
Hmm.
But that's what I do. I think And I'm happy knowing that I think I'm always going to be that way. I don't ever want everything mapped out for me. I
Yeah.
don't want to know that, okay, I'm going to start a membership and that's what I'm going to do to the day I die.
Yeah.
I think we're all evolving, aren't we? Our businesses or jobs evolve and change as we do.
Yeah.
So yeah, at the minute it's quite an interesting phase actually that I'm doing this podcast. I think it's quite pivotal
Yeah,
for me.
definitely. And that's why I reached, because I've seen your journey online throughout the years. We've obviously spoken here and there, but it's not been a constant chat, has it? So if I'm sensing it, I'm sure everybody else has seen that same pictures of your journey as well. And that's why I reached out and said, I think you'd be perfect to come on and have a chat about your journey. You're right, though. I think sometimes the best plan is no plan. And I can relate to some of the things you've just said there because, I think everyone sees online that, just because I'm in Australia, I'm living this dream life and this wonderful, by the beach pictures, which I don't really post very often, if I'm honest. But I think I do imagine that's what people imagine. I could be wrong. But, some of my worst heartache has been caused here in Australia, and I've had probably some of the biggest downs here in Australia, but because you're so far away from maybe your core friends and family and the people who are here don't necessarily relate to me as much, maybe because I didn't grow up with them. I didn't have that history with them. And so it does make things really hard. You moving to Cornwall, can you relate to that? Because I related to what you said about it not being, you mentioned before you live by the ocean and you need to be there and stuff. But coming from Manchester, you've had your ups and downs down south in the last 10 years. Before we go down the ups and the downs, what are you doing for work? Why have you done what you've done? Talk to us about what you're doing professionally, because I feel like we're aligned here because I work full time as a teacher, but I'm doing this and want to make this successful and I want to reach people to get their stories out so people can take something from it. I feel like you're doing the same thing. When we spoke a few weeks ago, you explained to me what you're doing part-time and then what you're doing at the side. Can you elaborate on all of that for us?
Yeah, and you just said a really interesting point on something you said a minute ago about that most of your heartbreaks come when you've veered off onto this journey to try and have better. I don't know if you're going to come back to it anyway, but I do think that. I think when you send out to the universe, I'm going to set off on a certain path and I want to find myself, you're going to get every test given to you to see if it really matters to you and how willing you are, how serious you are about it, because I totally agree. The past 10 years, I've been tested way more than I was before I left, thinking I wasn't happy. But yeah, sorry, my journey now at the minute is I work part-time in procurement, which is basically on computer and software and moving stocks around, which I really like, which is a good thing about why I wanted to accept this sort of part-time job. It just works for me. I like it. I like the team and I'm good at it. Yeah. So it just works without taking brain power away from my actual mission, the full mission, which is revival, coaching and community. And then on the side is my main coaching business, which is workshops and one-to-one coaching programs and constantly finding out what a community like I'm building needs. And I'm always learning that, like through all these events and workshops.
Yeah, I see that. You do quite a lot of public speaking?
No, I had my first real experience of it in November at my first biggest sellout event. Was a networking event, but a playful networking event. It wasn't supposed to be serious. It was all women. But I was opening with the 10 minutes. And oh my God, it was terrifying.
How many people?
I hated it. 25. Yeah. And that might sound not a lot to some people, but 25 where it's not the workshop setting where I'm used to guiding and it's structured and there's a purpose. For me solely to say 10 minutes, this is what I'm going to inspire in this 10 minutes. And everyone's eyes are just on you to receive this wisdom and inspiration. It was it was just such a different experience.
Once you finished it, sorry, I cut you off there. I didn't hear what you were saying. When you finished it though, how amazing did you feel?
I felt really proud that I'd again pushed through a lot of fear because I was so nervous about that. And just the fact it was a sellout one, that it was a brand new idea. It was called Pizza and Playful Networking. So I wanted to squash this formal, masculine feeling networking that you have to go in and pitch yourself to everyone. It was different, but the fact it sold out, I thought I have to deliver then because they're here thinking this is going to be something wow and different. But yeah, at the end, I felt really proud I'd done it, even though I was terrified and it was new. It was, again, more risks all the
Yeah.
time.
So the next time
But
you feel more comfortable doing 30, right? I guess.
yeah, because you learn so much.
Yeah.
Every time you do something and you think it flops or it's just awful, I felt it was. I wanted the ground to open me up when I was speaking. You just learn so much. I learned how unprepared I was because I was too confident because I'm used to doing coaching and workshops to groups. I went in thinking it would be fine and, I know what I'm saying, the story I'm sharing, but it's just a different ballgame. It's a different skill set.
Yeah.
Speaking to them, mentoring and things.
Do you think
So
the
loads of
audience got
learning.
something from you?
Yeah, I hope so. And I got feedback from some there who were lovely and said, no, you were amazing as ever. The people that are going to tell you those things because they value, and we've been together in this community for a long time. They said that actually the story I shared, they thought was really powerful because it was very linked to what they think I value and why they love me for the coaching. It was actually a story about the school I used to mentor in that we met in. So
Oh,
yeah,
you
I
shared
think
a story
often,
from there.
yes, because it was a girl that really inspired me, one of the pupils,
Oh,
um, from something that she wrote once when I asked people to write down why they wanted to do X, Y, Z in their future. Because this was year nines, we're talking 14-year-olds. And it was just really inspiring what she came back with, what she wrote. It was
what
about
did you?
inspiring people. I don't want to be one of those people in an office thinking I could have been done more. There's something really
Wow.
that she knows she's good at it. It was a musician. She wanted to be a musician, and she was writing about how she knows she can make it. She knows it will be hard work. It was just really mature, and she really had a dream. That was a year nine I was looking at that really had a dream, and I thought, is she going to get supported through life with this? What is the next 5 years like for her? And I shared that story of how her dream of wanting to be a musician was what led me to thinking
Mm.
I need to go and give this a good go of seeing where vocal coaching will go and where my own singing can go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
that was the
speaking
story I
speaking of
shared.
you singing, then I was going to bring this a little bit later, but what a perfect time to bring it in. I got a picture of you singing.
I thought you were going to say a video then. I was like, no.
No,
That's
I'm
the
not that
recent
good with the
one.
technology
No.
yet to incorporate the singing into the show. If we get bigger and I've got money, I can pay somebody to do that, but I'm not good at that
Yeah.
stuff. So I'm just learning to do this for now. So one step at a time. But I
I'm
got a
doing it
picture of
in
Katie
album.
singing there. For those who are listening on Apple or in the car, I've got a picture of Katie singing. She's an amazing singer because I have been to one of your shows.
Oh, which one did you come to?
I think Bury, Manchester.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a few there.
I think
Oh,
that
it was so
was
long ago.
around, that was 2011.
Well remembered.
Well, I
Oh,
remember
yeah.
because I moved here in February 2012, and it was within the 6 months before that.
Oh, that
Yeah.
was, yeah, such an interesting time for that, breaking out, having no confidence with it. And then, yeah, that journey began.
Well, you've got to have the level of confidence to sing even in a little place in Bury. I mean, I couldn't do that. So good
I
on you.
know. It's really nerve-wracking. That picture you just showed is that's a recent one of an open mic when I'd not sung for probably 7 or 8 months because of a low point. I mean, I'd sung at home and things, but that was quite a big deal, me getting back onto an open mic and, being bold enough to get out there again. Like when they say, if you've had a car crash, get back in the car. If you've had a fallen off the horse riding, get back on it. It was the same thing when you break back into doing that first singing and you're vulnerable and you just, yeah, I don't know if you've still got it or if people are still thinking you're as good. It's scary. But that night, yeah, it was fun.
You just mentioned a low point. What low point were you going through at that point?
A breakup, which was like a year and a half ago now. A year and a half ago now,
A
I
breakup
think.
from a
Yeah.
partner, I'm assuming.
Yes.
How long were you
Yes.
with your partner for?
I won't name names. Only a
No.
year with my ex, but it was an intense year. It was one of those real whirlwind ones. Gorgeous and lovely and intense, but as love is, and that I learned so much from the year we both did together. It's the scariest thing, loving someone and learning how to love someone and attach.
Did you love him?
Yes. Yes. He was the first person I think I fully did.
Mm-hmm.
And like, yeah, he had all of my heart. He still does. If he's
Yeah.
ever listening to this or watching, he still does. And he'll know that.
And
But it was really beautiful learning. I learned and grew so much in that year.
would there be a chance for you guys to sort it out and get back together?
I don't think so. It's a funny one because we both wanted to. It was one of those things where you want to, but it's a compatibility thing
Yeah.
and whether you've got the same values for your life. And it was more that there was no hate or anything.
No.
It's a shame. I think we'd even said ourselves, it's not, we'd wish someone would cheat or there was someone that was, someone was aggressive.
Yeah.
Because then you've got reasons to know it's not working. But when something doesn't work just because you're different and you're growing different, it's really hard, but it's still lovely. Lovely memories.
Yeah, we always say we wish we could hate them to break up and we think it's easier. But what you've just said there is it's more of an open mind, and it shows that you've got some connection to your own understanding of the self, right?
Yeah.
Obviously you don't need to talk about his values because that's private to him. But what were your values that didn't complement his then, or the other way around? What were your values that why it didn't work and what you wanted out of it?
I think I'm always wanting to. I've got quite an expansive mind, and I'm always wanting to grow and learn and be around new people, and just have experience around people in different environments. Whereas he was a lot more introverted.
Yeah.
He was definitely active. He was a biker, like a BMX and mountain bike and stuff. Not BMX, mountain bike. So he would be out doing all those things, more of like the adrenaline junkie. But
I
he
saw
would do that.
pictures when I was researching you. I saw pictures of you both doing that sort of thing.
Yeah. I did experience all that stuff a few times because of him. But yeah, he's more an adrenaline junkie but just more immersed within him and a smaller world. He just lives a little bit more introverted. He didn't used to, though. The funny thing was, in his earlier 20s, early 30s, he was the crazy wild child, the party guy and DJ and stuff like that. But it came the other way around. Whereas I think because I was outgoing and I had loads of friends and always been super chatty, but I'm bolder now with my life. So the more confident I get now, I want to get bold enough that I'm on stages speaking and that there's no limits to things. Whereas I think he's gone the other way, and maybe say speaking wrongly though. You never know once you've parted ways. He might be watching or listening to this one day like, no, I'm not. I'm doing so many things now.
Well, maybe that's what you both need. Maybe.
I know.
Maybe.
I know. I think only when you part, you see, who you are. With anyone in a relationship, you're a mirror to each other, aren't you? You hold up a mirror for what you're not as well, because you can only do that with looking at someone to see in contrast what they have compared to you or what they don't have compared to you. I don't want to say complete each other because I always like to think we're already complete as we are. But I definitely think it's healthy, isn't it, that you find someone where they're stronger, where you're weaker, and vice versa. So yeah.
And through some of my research on you as well, I don't know if this is connected to that, but you did say online that you went through some steps in the last year, and you said that you quoted from lost to found, and then you went on to explain some of the steps that you took for yourself more recently. What was that? What was the from lost to found mean? Where were you lost and where have you been found? If I'm quoting correctly.
Yeah, no. And I'm glad you bring this up because I think this is the common one where a lot of people can find themselves. And this is where leading your own way often comes in for people when you've been at your rock bottom or your lowest point and you've lost yourself, like your sense of self. Like hopefully, or not hopefully, but I'm sure there's a lot of people listening where they've been in that place where you feel like you don't know who you are anymore. You've molded maybe for a relationship. So being lost to me is when I've lost my sense of self, like my confidence has gone or my ambition has gone, my drive has gone. And it's been there before. So it's like, where is it? And it's when you still have that vision that you want to get back to that or a better version of that. How do you do that? And it took me the good part of the past year, I think. And in answer to your question, I think it started off when you're lost. You do strip back to basic fundamentals again. How do
For
I
sure.
take care of myself? How do I listen to myself? Are you
How were
even
you
creating
lost?
space
Why
for
were you
that?
lost? Oh, sorry, Katie.
No, it's okay. From the relationship, because I think we both tried to become what the other person wanted,
Mm,
but
yeah.
then in doing that, no one's happy. And yeah, you end up confused about what you're actually wanting yourself and who you are in it.
And
So
from the
yeah, I
quote
needed.
"lost to found," are you found now? Have you found yourself?
Yes, because I just reconnected to all the bits that we already are already there. Like this, when people talk about finding yourself in my community, we always say it's about returning home to yourself because you're always the person that you are. It's just life and the conditions over time and relationships that can
Mm,
tweak us or change us. It's returning home and it's all, sorry to like go off point, but it's always more about letting go of things than it is gaining things.
mm,
If you can shed the guilt or, regrets about things, the essence of who you are is always there. Always. So if you get quiet enough for long enough to be able to hear your intuition and those nudges that the universe or whatever your belief is trying to guide you to, you'll get there. You can't not
for
if you're listening.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Hmm?
so, what do you do now then to prepare yourself and look after yourself mentally, physically, and emotionally? What are I have a routine in the morning, for example, to set myself up for success. I know it sounds a bit hippie, but I looked at the science behind grounding, and I jump in
Mm.
cold spas at 5 degrees. I go for a walk and set my circadian rhythms with the sun every morning. I do these crazy things, but it
Oh,
only
that's
takes
good.
me 20 minutes. I have the best sleep now. I eat well. I treat myself.
Um,
People say treat yourself when you go for junk food, but I actually think looking after myself, even my gut, is treating myself. It's weird how I've changed my mindset because I used to eat. All my friends who are watching this know I used to sit on the couch and eat chocolate and crisp every night and eat fizzy drinks, that typical English diet.
Snacker.
And then, yeah, like honestly, I would eat chicken nuggets before bed. I would sour cream, mayonnaise. I
Chicken
did that.
nuggets before bed.
Oh, when I was
Like
growing up as a
toast.
20s, I would put micro. I remember McCain micro. I put micro nuggets in the microwave and take some Kit Kats upstairs with me to bed. And I was terrible. I reckon I was pre-diabetic for sure.
What
Um,
changed? What changed your mind on that? Why are you now
um,
different?
well, gotta feel like I'm being interviewed, Katie.
I'm curious because I'm really with you on this, the morning routine and actually nutrition and that you are what you eat and how
Yeah.
you set your day up. So yeah, I just
Well, it started 9 years ago when I was well, if people are listening who were a part of it or a side of it, yeah, I was bullied at work, and that's why I wrote the book. And it's not about bullying; it's about nurturing of leadership. Why I've got
mm,
another thing called nurturing leadership. That's another side thing that I'm passionate about, and it's fed into leading our own way because I wanted to share positive stories of how people have come from, adversity and darkness and whatever, however you want to look at it. And then I got dream jobs here in Australia, and it just didn't work out how I planned it. And I went on a journey then. Well, I need to look after myself here because things keep going wrong, and I can't
mm,
mentally handle these people being negative or toxic or
yeah,
whatever it is. So I need to have myself better prepared for this. And I
uh,
had my gallbladder removed. I changed my career to set up nurturing leadership and leading our own way. I had my gallbladder removed. I was 20 minutes away from being in a coma. And because
wow,
sepsis had set in, and I was nearly on life support. And I thought when I came out of that and I survived, because I thought having children and having a nice car and building my house would fix me. And I was all in stages going, oh, I'm looking forward to this. I'll get that. I'll be great. Yeah, I'll move on.
yeah,
But no, I just found another honeymoon period, that graph coming down again. But there was
yeah,
nothing going wrong. I was going down again. It's because I wasn't present. I wasn't
yeah,
within myself. So I worked on myself. I thought something's got to change. And it comes back to that. Do we ever really hit rock bottom? We said it on another, I keep repeating myself with guests, but do we ever really hit rock bottom? Because if you're at rock bottom or what you perceive as rock bottom, I'm sure you could get a carve and knock away at that rock and you could go lower.
uh,
Do you know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah.
So it's their rock bottom. It's all,
Yeah.
there's no ranking on trauma. That's what I believe. So do we ever hit rock bottom? No, I believe we could always go lower, but I was sick of being at my low. And so I just,
Yeah.
I started to look at myself, read these brain books and neuroplasticity, and it's all science. It's not hippie. Well, nothing wrong with being hippie, but it's all science. It's all there.
Yeah.
It's the truth, it's all research stuff. And just went on the journey of that. So started, because I used to
Love
look at
that.
people who did grounding like crazy. I get out of my spa and I stand on the grass. And I've recently learned about how it's so good. This is so good. Check this out. So Gary Brecker, a human biologist, he said about grounding. He's a human biologist, but and he loves grounding. He talks about the red blood cells. And if you prick yourself and get some blood cells and put them on a microscope, do it without grounding, you can see all the red blood cells clumping together. They all stay together, they charge and connect to each other. And that's not what you want, because that allows diseases to set in and whatnot. But if you ground yourself, you do the same thing, but within 10 minutes, prick yourself again and do it. And you can see all the red blood cells spread out. So you're making, and then they bounce off together like eggs in a bowl, rolling around.
Yeah.
And he said he obviously knows the science a lot better than me. And he talks about how you can alkaline through red light, and the grounding basically you discharge into the earth, and you can put this charge into the earth where you put it in, and if you're not touching it, you've got shoes and socks, and it stays flat on the bar. And some guy did it in front of me. He said, check this out, put it into the ground. And he then took the shoes and socks off, and the charge went like this, whoom, up. I was like, whoa.
It's mental, isn't it?
So that straight away for me changed everything. So yeah, getting sunlight in the morning, the healthy sun, before it gets a bit bad here in terms of UVA and UVB. Jump in the cold water, walk my dog, do a little bit of exercise here and there to strengthen myself up. And I'm feeling a breath. I do my breath work during the cold water dip.
Yeah, you can't not.
Well, it's weird because I get in now and I just I don't go. I get in and then just breathe slowly, and that's how I've improved throughout the journey. Anyway, going on a bit of a spiel there, but
I love what you've just said, though. It starts when you're looking after yourself. When you do go to those rock bottoms, whatever it feels like for the person, it's the realization that no one's coming to rescue you. Like, if you don't take care of yourself, it's going to happen again. Like, cycles repeat. And everything you just said then, when you said about my lost and found journey, like, am I found now? Yes, because there's some like really key fundamentals that they're non-negotiable in my life. Every single morning, meditation is the first thing I do. Only during the week. Weekends I don't. But Monday to Friday, yes, it's 15 minutes of meditation and then stretches for about 5 minutes.
Nice.
Cold shower straight away, because I started that in the pandemic and it changed my life. For anyone that is listening, I know we talk about this and people think it's like preachy or like, why would we do this? It honestly has so many health benefits, and never do I get out of the shower with my state of mind in the same place. Like, however you feel, you will get out different. So yeah, that meditation, cold showers. I have a smoothie every morning, again on weekdays. And just the little things truly are the things that matter, that comfort you and soothe you, because no one's ever going to do that for you. No one can hug you 24/7. So you have to find ways that you're calming your nervous system, like, often, frequently.
Yeah. I see where I started the cold showers before it all, became quite fashionable. And I was reading the Daily Mail about a guy who couldn't leave his house. He's had anxiety for 20 years, but he had no physical fear. Or maybe it was 10 years, but he couldn't leave his house. And he started doing cold showers. I was like, what on earth is this about? So I started to read the science within it, because he quoted things, and I went and did my research. And the trauma on the skin, well, we class it as trauma on the skin. 200 years ago, everyone was having cold. You know what I mean? There was no hot water anywhere. But he was talking about how it was traumatic on the skin because we're not used to it. So it builds up the skill set to be able to deal with that trauma. So then that transfers to real life. So you build the skill set internally, cellular level, and it allows you it mimics that in real life. It prepares you better mentally and physically and emotionally. So I was like, so I started doing 10 seconds. And I just built up 20 seconds, 30 seconds. I got up to like 10 minutes in the cold shower. And the further research says, you don't need you just do between 3 and 6 minutes. Anything around the 15 degrees is probably where you need it to be. There's no evidence to go longer, because it'd be like the gym. You'll need to go longer and you'll need to go heavier, which means colder in this sense. So I have it in the spa outside. I can't control the weather, but it's around 13. So anything around 15 and lower is that what you need it to be for the purpose of why you're doing it. And my day, I sometimes don't do it to test how I am in the day.
Yeah.
There's a massive difference. I don't care what anyone says. It works for me, and it's amazing. It just, honestly, you're the first person that said the same thing as me. Cold water is what changed my life.
Oh, it is. There's something about the mind control of it that I love, because it does. You learn that you're in charge of your mind. Like, your body doesn't know it's stressed unless you tell it is. Your body doesn't know it's freezing water. It does, because we go and gasp, and then the body then sends all these signals of panic. It's fascinating that we can be in cold water and you're calm. It's not hellish. You just learn to endure it. So then that's a knock-on effect in the rest of your life.
If I could push depressed people into water, I'd just do it.
I know.
I really would. I wish I could, because it's better than taking these tablets. Well, that's my opinion. I'm not a doctor, so don't do what I say, people. But I would, because I got antidepressant tablets and put them on the table, and sat them there and thought about them for a very, very long time. But I never took it. That's not to say it doesn't work for some people. That, if there's a placebo effect, great, whatever. But I wasn't willing to. I think with these things, we buy other problems, don't we? It might fix one problem, but it'll buy another.
Yeah, so I agree. Yeah, there's side effects to everything.
Yeah.
Something on just the end of that Wim Hof or like cold showers is that from the training with him, I think at one point said, everyone should do something once a day that makes you uncomfortable.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be living in comfort all the time. That's how we get into this privilege and luxury or entitlement. That's why I think every morning, if I've done that, I feel I've won the day already, because it isn't easy. Like, you never want to get in. It's only when you're in, you're thinking, I can do this, and then you feel really good about yourself.
100%.
But it's just that when I heard that sentence. So, like, to anyone listening, ask yourself, what do you do every day that is actively uncomfortable for you, but you make yourself anyway?
Yeah.
Because it changes things so much. If you can find something like that gives you that hit of dopamine, which is that rush you get when you do something that you said you're going to do and you tick a goal off.
Well, it sets off quite a lot of the neurotransmitters, because you get the healthy cortisol flooding the brain. You get, coming out in your system. Sorry, you get all your dopamine, like you mentioned. The dopamine lasts for I've read that dopamine lasts between 5 to 7 hours at 250%.
Wow, I love that. I'm going to try and get more hits of that. Didn't realize it was that long, but it probably is.
Yeah, well, I'm present all day. I found myself the way I am used to be at work. I'm present with the kids when I'm teaching. I don't get distracted. I'm focused. My mind probably used to race. I don't know. But yeah,
it's just fascinating.
Absolutely fascinating. Obviously, that you it just gets everything else going, and you feel great. The serotonin comes out, and it just feels amazing. Yeah, I feel good about myself every day, and I don't need a coffee to wake me up. I enjoy a coffee because I like the health benefits of a coffee. But I'm not having a coffee for maybe 2 to 2.5 hours after waking up. So that tells me I don't need it. I just enjoy it.
Yeah. And for people listening as well, I know we're talking about cold water and that, and some people might just think, I'm never going to do it. Like, I've got friends that think, I'm never going to do it. It's definitely not for me. But I think just find something in your life that you can change, though, like drinking loads more water. It's the easiest thing I say to people when I'm coaching them. Like, prove to yourself you can do that and make that a new habit, and then it will lead to something else. But find something where you can start building one new habit that is looking after yourself.
Yeah.
Because it teaches your brain that you do care about yourself, that you're not going to,
we can trick the brain. I feel we're all a unity. We all work together in as a body and a mind. But the brain is something you can trick, but it's also something that can trick you.
I know.
So it's just about those small, simple steps of training the mind to work alongside you, and because if you get that sugar hit and you want that sugary, and that, I forget the coding of, there's a gene behind here, down here, that the brain connects with it and goes, right, well, can I have that again, please? And convinces the gene. There's a code to it, and I forgot, M55F5. I don't know. I'm trying to memorize it to make me look.
I'm not going to fill it in for you. I don't have a clue.
I'm just trying to memorize the genetic code so I make myself sound smart.
I'm really good.
But yeah, it triggers it, and it convinces oneself to, I forgot
It's
where I was
true
going to
what
go
you've
with
just
that.
it's true what you just said then though. I've said it to someone before in coaching. The mind is mental, because the mind, the same time, can absolutely destroy you.
Yeah.
If you tell it horrendous things, you end up paranoid, uber self-conscious, what's the agoraphobic, is it, when you don't want to leave the house and stuff? Or it's the most powerful muscle you have, that will take you to places you would never even imagine. And that's the same thing, the brain. So it depends how you're using it.
And I think that used to be the normal human baseline. I think we've gone below negativity, the baseline now as a negative, let's say, because we've invented so many things that, again, make us feel comfortable and relaxed and amazing. But that sets in I keep quoting Gary Becker. I promise to everybody else, I listen to way more people than just Gary Becker, but he is amazing. He quotes, he talks about comfortability is the acceleration of death. I'm like, wow. Yes, he's so right. When you look at the diseases that set in now because we're so comfortable, it's amazing. But again, just put yourself through a little bit of uncomfortability per day, every day, and you build that skill set to be able to keep things away. We mentioned, you mentioned about water. For my advice to people would be getting the only nutrient that the body can create itself, vitamin D3. Get more vitamin D3. You need two things to make, again, quoting Gary, you need two things to make vitamin D3, and that is the sunlight and cholesterol. They're the two things that you need to create it. So getting so many international units of D3 per day will set you to sleep better at night. Your routine in the morning helps you sleep better at night, and you'll keep many diseases away, and you'll thrive every day as well. So I look at my D3 levels and I supplement for it, but I get out in the healthy sun every morning. And I know that's harder some places in the world, but even if it's grey cloud, the sun, what you need will still penetrate that, so you can still get what you get. And then he talks about catching colds. Even it's a myth. You can't catch colds. We just associate to wrapping up because it's cold. And when you wrap up, what do? You cover up your skin. And what doesn't hit your skin because you're covering up? The sun. So if you go out in the cold every morning, you will not get a cold because of it. You just let the sun hit your skin.
You're strengthened to it. Your immune system's better.
Yeah.
You're hitting on so many things that I think there's so many ways to look after yourself. Because I know many people listening hopefully might know of Tony Robbins. At his seminar, when I went to Unleash the Power Within, one thing they say on the nutrition and the body day, when it's all around that, is move. Like, so many of us are just stationary for so many hours of the day, whether you're sat at the office desk or laptop or whatever, or in a car, if you drive a lot for work, like, you have to move your body.
Like, should have this podcast outside, shouldn't we?
I don't know, and this should be about body and the nutrition. God, I would not want to preach to anyone that I'm your person for body and nutrition, but
no, me neither. No. But again, somebody said the other day, I forgot who it was, but we're supposed to spend 85% of our time outside. We're supposed to, but now we spend 97% of the time inside, and that's just mind blowing. And we just
really sad, because we were speaking about this the other day about teenagers. Because I don't know, you'll remember, like, when we were younger, we were outside all the time. We were playing, or we were doing stuff, building like little mini tree houses, or we were just outdoors. Whereas now, there's just technology's made everyone, again, stationary. They're hiding, they're not developing people skills. Like, it's one reason why the coaching and revival community I've really tried to do is to keep it in person. So I bring women together and I want them in the room, because we don't all want to sit on Zooms. Like, we're not built for that. It's not the connection we need.
Connection relationship is the first and foremost before any of that. You could have all the vitamin D3, I suppose, in the world that you have, but if you've got no connection,
you're lonely.
Yeah, loneliness. Because apparently we spend 1 year with our children after the age of 18 that we do for the rest of our life. You know, we get them for 18 years, and then over the rest of your life, you might spend the average. Obviously, it's not for everybody, but it adds up to about a year afterwards.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
You can
mental.
see why that's probably true as well, but it's crazy,
Yeah.
isn't it? Shows
And
how
you
much we need to
spend,
value
and the
time.
graph with colleagues is high till the point of retirement.
Yeah.
You spend all your time with your colleagues. But you know, again, I've said this on a podcast. People have said so many times to me, "I'm not here to make friends." I always say, "Why? Why
I
not?
know. I know.
You don't
We
have to go
spend
to
so much
dinner every
time at
week."
work, or like, yeah,
Blows my mind. Why can't we be friends? We don't have to hang out every day. We don't have to go out to dinner outside of work. But why can't we be friends at work? Like seriously.
yeah. And
Bah.
all the more reason to find jobs or work placements or environments where you're happy around those people. You
Mm,
don't have to love everyone you work with, but I do think, God, try and find a healthy environment.
yeah.
There's some that are really toxic work environments, and
Don't even get me
they can
started.
leave you in yeah, you'll know it. Like, I've worked with some women and they were just left destroyed from like 10 years in a workplace that was awful.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So
value happiness.
what type of discussions then do you have with the women in the room? Can you just paint us a quick picture for us of what some of the discussions sound and look like?
The best two examples are probably my first two half-day ones if someone was going to enter my world. The first one is like life gridding with them. So they get an overall bird's eye view of their life and like how it's made up of these 9 areas. And then people instantly see like, oh, wow, you know, they're fine, those areas, or these ones, oh my God, I really need to look at this, because they realize they're not happy in that at all. So there's that. A lot of discussion is the first time I'll be meeting someone where you're actually getting them to dare to view their life in the reality that it is, which is often the resistance or why people will put off coming because they know the truth of something and they don't want to see it yet. And the second main one is all around character. Getting yourself to really know yourself. You have to know what you like and don't like to be able to have boundaries.
Is that connected to purpose, do you think?
Yeah, because I think we're only happy if we can only value ourselves if we think we're of value and that we have something to give or offer in whatever ways that could be. That could be being a mother. Some people want to be a mother. Some people want to be CEO. But if you don't know the parts that you want to praise about yourself and know your top strengths, you're going to find things really hard because you might be tweaking around just who you're with. So on one of the workshops where I was saying this is we list our 5 top strengths that we genuinely know are our leaders, our guiders for this is what I would play first if I was going to try and get this job, or if I was going to make these friends, it's because I'm really empathetic, I'm really hardworking, and people come out with all sorts of things. Like some people have wrote before, I'm really funny. So they know that humor is like a massive part of them and they like using that.
Yeah. Okay. What are your 5 strengths then, would you say, if you were if Katie was asking you in a meeting, what would your 5 be?
Definitely empathetic.
We'll come back to empathetic in a minute, but carry on.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of it. I did this a bit ago again, revisited with some of the women.
You can't ask other people the question if you don't know it yourself, Katie.
I know. Empathetic, hardworking.
Yeah.
I'm very hardworking.
You are.
Very organised.
I can see that with your calendar behind you.
Yeah. But it still needs adding some things on. I started it and then it's gone on to Google Calendar instead. My strength, I think a big strength of mine is communication. I love conveying a message and I love coaching. I love mentoring and progressing. God, it's really on the spot. It's really funny.
I like it.
Yeah, no, I want to think
Last
about
one.
this to see, because I think it changes often as well, doesn't it?
Of course, but right now in the present moment.
Yeah, empathetic, hardworking, good communicator, very loyal, very loyal.
Yeah,
I've really got your back. And yeah, I've really got your back and I will love you with every bit of me if I feel it's a really safe space and a really equal, loving exchange and connection.
Do you feel safe now?
Yes, I do.
Good.
I always did with you. You've always been this way though. I think you're well-intentioned and you can see that. And
I get it wrong sometimes. I've made some dreadful mistakes, I'm sure, and some people have hated it maybe. I don't know. Well, I know.
Everyone does.
Yeah.
So I watched something with Oprah Winfrey the other day and she was just saying you can't lead a bold, life and a great life without disappointing people. Just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're pleasing your way through life. So yeah, I've definitely disappointed people or
Have you
done
ever
things
hurt
that they
anybody? I know I've hurt people and have upset people, but
not
again, probably
intentionally. But
no, definitely not
yeah.
intentionally. Probably just got it wrong in how I said things or what I said, maybe.
Yeah.
For sure, I know I have because of the way they maybe responded and acted, and
Yeah.
But yeah,
And I love that you've said this as well, because it's not everyone will be okay with that vulnerability of it. But yes, for sure. We
mm,
say things because in the heat of the moment, we're just emotionally responding and where we're at. But it's only when you've had time to process things, isn't it, that you understand it. But that to me always means more. If I can come back to someone and say, I'm so sorry, I didn't handle that very well, or they can do that for me, that's love. To be able to sit with that vulnerability, like in yourself and with someone else, is huge. So
yeah.
yeah, I think to be able to say sorry and
Have
yeah,
you
just accept
ever
that you're
hurt anybody?
human. Hmm?
Have you ever hurt anybody?
Probably like, well, I think family as well. We can often speak out, and I've always been quite an outspoken member of the family. I was the baby as well, the baby of three of us, me and my two sisters. So I
Mm,
think I've been more of the emotional one and quite openly emotional about it. So I have to voice it or point things out. And sometimes maybe it's too open. I've learned that, I think, over time as well, that like know the place and know the audience.
yeah,
There's no
yeah,
point sometimes pouring your heart out somewhere where you know they're not your people, or you know it's not going to be received
yeah,
the way you want it to be.
yeah, for sure. Are you close with your sisters?
Yes, we're all a
Great.
really close family, all different. We've all got our own little, yeah, different characters and stuff, but yeah, close.
Well, yeah, you've got to go through different characters, don't you?
I know. It's interesting, yeah, being the baby though, because I think you see so much, don't you? Like, and then the first one out, the firstborn, I think you have like this blank canvas. There's no bar to be
Yeah,
measured about. Whereas my sister's like the eldest is really intelligent and stuff. I don't mean my middle sister's not, but yeah, Louise was always really intelligent. The eldest one that was doing things, before any of me and my middle sister. She was at university, and my middle sister, like it used to be said at school, that she was like the prettiest in the school and stuff. So I'm so aware that I'm in contrast to that when you're the younger one. So it's funny. I talked about these things in therapy, like the dynamic siblings have going on and
hmm
what roles we end up taking, because sometimes it's the only one left.
yeah,
For anyone listening, if you think you've ever struggled with things with family or siblings, yeah, if one person seems like the typical intellectual one, they're going to do really well, or one seems like the glamorous, gorgeous one, or sometimes then you take on the role of I'll be the carer and I'll take
yeah,
care of everyone, or anyway, going
yeah.
off point, but
No, definitely off point. It's on point for sure. Okay, well, you've just mentioned family then. Where did you grow up? What did your childhood look like when you grew up?
I grew up in Bury, Manchester.
Hmm.
Um, my family life was like, it was really normal. I have learned since of how much trauma can happen and take place in a family. And I
Yeah,
feel really lucky that mine was really stable.
yeah,
It was really stable, really predictable. Mum and dad still together to this day.
nice.
Two older sisters, which have always, looked out for me. We've always been close.
Hmm.
Um, if I was to sum it up as what it is in my head, I have a dad that he's always done super well. He's been like worked really hard all his life and been like athlete on the side of that as a cyclist.
Yeah,
Always
cool.
had really high standards and really disciplined. Not one to openly praise or say like, well done. Or it doesn't matter that it's not perfect.
Yeah,
He's a I'm going to achieve sort of guy.
yeah,
So there's definitely that in me, that he's always striving for that. What's going to be enough sort of
yeah.
thing.
Hmm.
And my mom was the people person. I learned from my mom, like, God, you speak to everyone. Like just a real mom. She just wanted to be a mom and take care of us and be there for school runs and making tea, and
No,
very content mother.
is she still content?
Yes. She always has openly said she wanted to have children and raise a family.
Yeah,
So I think that's been half of my struggle that I found hard, because I've not grown up with like entrepreneurial parents or a mother that, strives to have a job and career whilst having children, or a dad that does things a bit out there or risky. He's been always took risks within his work. He's been an engineer, but
mm,
it's not been entrepreneurial. So he believes you make the money, you pay the bills, you stay secure, find your security, basically. And I've gone against the grain with all of those things. So I think that's what I found maybe hard. There was no model for me of proof, so I'm just fumbling my way through all this on my own.
Well, what they've done there, they've modelled what they believed was the right thing to do within
Yeah.
themselves, and they've provided a beautiful environment for you to grow in. So the question lies, where does your thought process come from then? Do you know what I mean? Where's your
Good
thought process
question.
to go and do that? It just come to me then. But they've given you've just had a great childhood. You love it. They're brilliant and they're caring and so on. They've achieved what they wanted to achieve. But where's what you wanted to go and achieve come from? Why didn't you didn't want to, did you want to grow up
Oh,
and be a mum like your mum? Did you want to be more like your dad? But it sounds like you didn't want to be either. You kind of wanted to have both of them, but your own flavor mayonnaise on top. Do you know what I mean?
this is a great question. Like a
Mm,
great question. And I don't think anyone's ever asked this. I think I know the answer that I've known that I want to be like my dad and do really well and be somebody. Like I
mm,
want to have some significance.
yep.
But I also don't think I saw him fulfilled. So he
Right.
was doing well and would hit the marks and achieve. But I don't think I would say, I mean, he might disagree, but yeah, I
Yeah.
don't think it was fulfillment because back in that generation, it wasn't. He
Yeah.
was providing for a family of, 5 of us all. You do what needs be.
Yeah.
And with my mom, I think I very much saw a mom where you give up all your own needs to raise children and have a family. And I knew I didn't want to do that. As lovely as my mom is, because of that reason, she
That
will
was her
just put everyone
purpose,
before.
wasn't it?
Yeah, and that gives her the significance.
Yeah.
She's a mother and she will be there no matter what. But I knew that I wanted something that was more something rooted in me that was not going to be determined by children or a marriage. Something of a legacy. I want to be remembered, like whatever day I might pass in this lifetime.
Mm.
I want to be remembered for something, and I know that that's just me. That's me that wants that.
Yeah.
Um,
Did you ever want children?
yes, I still do as well.
Yeah.
Hopefully in the next couple of years.
Yeah. I asked that because obviously I want because of the journey you've gone on, and I was suspecting you might have put all of that on. You don't know what goes on in people's lives, do you? So
Yeah,
I know, obviously, I know you don't have children, but I was wondering, because of your mother's upbringing and her purpose, did you ever see yourself being a mum? Obviously, you've just answered it, but I was wondering more
yeah,
pre-25. Did you ever want
yeah.
children? Some people change their minds and so on. You know what I mean?
Mm. Always really maternal. But again, I think it's good you're asking this question, particularly there's other women listening, because
Mm.
I don't think there's any set timeline anymore. I
Nah,
think we need to take this thing off that, you go to university and then you get a job, or then you get a house and you get a partner and then you have the baby.
totally.
It just doesn't work like that. And it especially doesn't work like that if you are someone you're aware you're wanting to live more authentically. And I think a lot more of us are more conscious now that we're not living by past, blueprints of things.
Mm.
I know I'm doing stuff differently. So if I have a child at 39 and I can bear a child,
Mm.
then it'll happen at 39. But
Yeah.
I feel quite lucky I'm not one that's got the pressure on me. I definitely know there's some women that they feel a pressure about it
Mm.
with that timeline and things. But I
Why
just
don't you
think
feel the
whatever is
pressure, do you
meant,
think?
because I never want to do things if it doesn't feel
Right.
natural.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to force something. I wouldn't want to bring a child into this world if I'm not ready or I'm doing it for the wrong reasons. I always want to be really sure if I'm doing something, I'm doing it because I really want it.
Mm.
The same with relationships. I've been very selective because I don't ever want to be in one for the sake of being in a relationship.
Yeah, for sure.
I just,
100%. Yeah.
it's got to feel right. So yeah, I do want children, but who knows? I might never end up having them. And it's really funny. I don't know what your plan was like when you was at high school, but when I was a teenager, 16 or something, I really thought, and I wrote it somewhere, by 25, I'm going to marry a doctor, I'm going to have 3 children, and I'm going to be a dancer. It's just so not how life goes. And just go with it. You have no idea how life's going to go.
Yeah, I don't think I told people this, but I remember thinking, I do want 2 kids when I'm older. I've got 2. And I thought, I want to have them. I want to
Oh.
be a young, cool dad. I would like them before 28. And then I got to 28 and I was remembering that thought that I had. I went, no,
I'm not a cool dad.
Well, no, I definitely would have been cool. Don't worry about that. No, I'm
You are.
joking. But
You are, Andy.
no, I'm not. I'm not the cool dad I thought I was going to be. I'm pretty hard on my son because he's a boy who's going minds racing left, right, and centre in this modern day. But my daughter brings the soft out in me, and I'm like, you can't. It's that stereotypical, you're hard on your son because you want him to be a man. But then my daughter, I'm like, oh, but I struggle. I don't. The man thing is really hard because in my nature, I want him to grow up to. I think you have to be a man you have to present to be a man. You have to model. You have to see it from someone.
Even this is a whole subject in itself. Maybe we can do a podcast on this at some point because
I
when
don't
you're
want to get
saying
myself into trouble.
I know it's so hard these days because it's the same for me with speaking about work I do with women. It's so hard to think, what is woman supposed to be or what's man supposed to be then.
I'm not going to go down the track of the woman side, that's for sure. But I do believe I want him to understand his emotions. I want him to cry if he wants to cry. I have no qualms. Yeah. I've always been an emotional guy. I've definitely not. Again, people who know me know I've cried, and people know I've always been open, probably too open, to be fair. So I definitely probably didn't follow that typical man trait growing up because, being tough and hiding it and all. Nah, always been open. So, but I want him to be strong. I want him to go out there and get what he wants, or at least try, but set him up to fail so he can deal with failure. I keep saying to him, mate, go and fail over and over and over again. It's totally cool. No, long as you're kind. Sorry?
You mean strong-minded as well, don't you? When you're saying it, then you're
that's what I'm saying. I don't know. Unless he's playing basketball, I'd like him to have a bit of muscle behind him for sure. Because I never had it, and then that's probably why I didn't go to the NBA. No, I'm joking. But I want him to be. I want him to be. Just strong within himself and go and get what he wants to get, and just be okay with failure, getting it wrong. But as long as he's kind and respectful, and have character, mix things up, break the rules here and there. That's okay. Just and be kind and respectful to women.
I love that you say have character.
Character.
Because I think people don't talk about it enough.
Character. This is, again, the industry of, I can only speak about education, but I want people to hire character and personality. People who have the ability to connect, not someone who can just say all jargon words in an interview and values of the department, of whatever department you go into.
I know.
Hire people who can connect, especially when you have to, it's a job for connection. It's not sat behind a computer all day where you might not need the same connection level. I believe there's a place for everybody on this earth, and there's a job for everybody, but especially in education or children or this type of thing, interact with somebody. I think you need to have character and personality, and that will take you further than having a high level of intelligence. I can train you to be a good teacher. I can teach you structure of persuasive writing. I can teach you maths. Whatever. Again, leaders don't have the time to do that, so that's why they don't want to do that. But that's what we need, because the soul of the job is connection with kids. So let's hire people who can talk, be themselves, connect with them on a deep emotional level, mental level, physical level, all of the levels, and teach them human skills. And then when we bring in some of their eating, it doesn't make any sense to me. If I could get to the top of the department and change it, I don't want to do that anymore, but if I could change it, that's what I would change. The viewpoint is all wrong in most of the industries. I just don't, blows my mind. It's all about money and ticking boxes. I know education is not so much about money, but it's about ticking boxes.
Hopefully it's changing slowly. I think the more we talk about these things, and there was a quote by, I think, John Rowe. Is it John Rowe? There's someone, Jim Rohn. It's Tony Robbins' mentor, the one he had before him. And he always said, character is who you are when no one's looking.
Same with a good leader, doing the right thing.
And I love
Sorry, go
on. Who you are behind closed doors, but not when you're trying to do something to look good. Who are you being? What are you doing? What are you working on? What are you reading when no one's in the room and you're just yourself? Work on that. Hone that about yourself.
It's funny you say that, because on my research of you as well, I've seen you write a few things, but I'm going to tell you my version first before you're bringing your version, because it could be different, but I'm suspecting it's the same. And we talk about, I think again, it was on Stephen Bartlett, Diary of the CEO, and he interviewed a spy, a spy from America, and he talks about the lives that you lead, and you have a secret life that only you know. You have a private life that only your partner or the people you live with know, and then you have a public life where everybody sees you. And some people call them subpersonalities. Well, my last guest called them subpersonalities, and I think you call them the 3 ego states. Is that right, or is that different?
I think I know which one you mean. No, that was different though.
I suspected it was to do with that. Okay. But yeah, you're right though. I think we do. People, it sounded like it was, and then I didn't go in. I was looking for something else, so I wrote that down as a note. I was going to ask you about that. But yeah, I think you're right. We all lead these different lives, and that's why I get up in the morning and try and keep myself disciplined, because if I could lead myself in a private sense, secret, even the secret, that crosses over from secret to private, I suppose. But yeah.
I think part of what you were saying then, when it was the 3 ego states, I've heard it called as like the shadow side. I've not looked into that much of that, but yeah, I think I've heard that everyone's got the shadow side, which is the darker side of us, the things that we don't always want to say we're thinking, or like, I don't know. I think everyone does. God, the mind and people are so complex.
Yeah. Well, I love what we're talking about, and I do think we've gone off you slightly, because this episode is about you. But I've loved it, because I love talking all about that. But I'm not here, obviously, I know we're not here to dictate how science goes and whatnot. But as long as we back it up what we say with who we talk about, because we don't want to get into trouble. But you've obviously been on a journey. I always believe what we mentioned before. Do you believe people have to change because of a certain crisis in their life? Do you think, whether the word crisis is the right one? Do you think we have to go on that back to that life graph, us going down and dropping? If we drop, do you think that's when we make changes? Or do something real amazing in the world where we have to go and make a difference? Because you've been on a journey, you've set all this up for a reason. Do you know what I mean?
I can't help but not go back again to a Tony Robbins quote, though, that says people change from 2 places and for 2 reasons, out of inspiration and desperation.
Yes, I like that.
And I really believe that. I've definitely been in those times when I'm changing because I was desperate and there was no other good way. There was nothing good about anything, so I was desperate to just, anything would be better. But then I've also been in those times when things can be okay, but then I'm so inspired by seeing something that then I'm like, oh my God, I need to not settle for this. There's way more out there.
I'm just writing that down because that was a good one. Inspiration, desperation. No, I like that, because I've decided that I'm going to give my secret away. I've not started it yet, but on my posts on Instagram and Facebook, I've been quoting people, but I'm going to quote my guests. And that's going to be one of your quotes.
But that's a Tony Robbins one. So I don't want
to put Tony Robbins on it, but then I'll slash you onto it as well.
But put me in the same bracket as him. That's great. I'll tag him, I love
that. But I think it'd be pretty cool to quote my guest, because I think people can get something from my guest. Do you know what I mean? What did I ask then? I forgot what I asked.
If change comes from being like at rock bottom, I think, when you go on the decline. But I think from those 2 places, I think most people do it once they've hit a low. Any drastic change, anyway. I think when people's the trajectory changes quite a lot, I think that comes from when people have, they've come out of divorce or an abusive relationship or lost a job. Like something's hit, and they're like, what now?
So you then, because I know, I know we've still got a little bit to touch on with some of the things you've been through and some of the things you've set up, because you've sent that through to me. So I do think it's important that we talk about that. But we're still around your childhood. You've mentioned your family life and so on. But you at school, go on. I know you're smiling. For those who can't see her, she's smiling because she knows.
Oh. Well, it's just sweet, isn't it? When we all think of ourselves as the little self, there's so much we'd go back and say. I wanted to be a dancer. There was something about me as a child, I think, that was all about expression. Like my room, I would be painting at home. Like my parents let me. God, I've painted my bedroom letterbox red, bright pink. I was always painting around the mirrors. And I wanted to dance. I was just so desperate to express myself and express feelings, but just never had the confidence. So at secondary school, I did it at like breaks, and we'd do these little routines. And at primary school, I got this little girl group together and had a little songwriting book. That is what I always smile at and think of. I was so desperate to try and express myself. But my life's journey and what has been this last 10 years has been figuring out how you do that, how you actually do find that confidence where you go and do it. Because now I've taught dance. I've taught street dance classes. I've vocal coached for years. I've sung on stages, like in competitions. So it does come, but you've got to put yourself as Brené Brown, amazing person, if no one knows her or you've not heard of her, you've got to put yourself in the arena. You've got to decide saying, I'm going to go learn this and I've got to give this my all. And I did. I think from, how old would I have been? I think 21 was when I first sung in front of someone properly, like an audition.
How long have you been singing for at that point, though?
Oh, just like at home and stuff. That was never in front of anyone, or it was hidden almost. Like it's almost something that you wouldn't tell people. Like people at school knew, but it wouldn't be singing in front of school or anything like that. It was like friends, but only that I liked it. I wouldn't be like, shouting it from the rooftops.
What were you like at school? Were you nervous? Were you confident, outgoing, or shy? What were you like at school? Did anything hold you back, do you think? Because you said you wanted to be creative, but you didn't sing until you're 21. So something's holding you back here.
Yeah, outwardly, I would be outgoing. When you said that, I was outwardly, chatty. In with, I guess you would say, the popular group. I had lots of friends. I went to all the school parties and all stuff like that. I sound so young, all the school parties, but you know what I mean.
I see this in you because that's the Katie I know, right? And I've seen you sing in front of someone I definitely couldn't do that. So I do see this confidence, but there is something in your personality where there's probably something a bit deeper where you're holding back, maybe.
Yes, and I'm glad you're asking because it's a really common one that might help other people, is being a pleaser. You're doing something a lot of the time to create this image, though, of this will look like this, and I will sing this because I look really confident. But there can be so much going underneath that you feel a fraud for even doing it. You're constantly thinking you're rubbish. I don't sound good. Pulling yourself apart when you watch videos back. Even at school, actually, I'll share. I used to cut my own head off pictures. That is how much I hated looking at pictures of myself. I used to cut them off. Yeah, I know. And that was
What
at
do you
high
think
school.
that was from?
Not liking myself. There was a part, not liking myself or being so critical of myself that unless you looked perfect, I just didn't want to see it, or ashamed of myself for some reason.
Do you think that was from, because you mentioned before about lack of praise? Do you think it was from that? Whether it was teachers, home, whatever. Do you think it was from that?
Yeah, a combination of different things as well, because I think it's easy for us when we're older. We look back at things and we can remember certain memories really boldly. But when you actually drill down, there was little bits of little bullying at primary, like most people have, or like name calling.
Well, just
so
because
it
happens a lot doesn't mean it's okay.
Yeah,
So
no. And it sticks for someone that's already critical of themselves, or they have a high expectation.
Were you bullied then? Were you bullied?
I wouldn't say bullied, but just things that I remember name calling. But you never know, even when, as you get older, you don't know how much you kind of shut off to it because maybe things did hurt or you didn't want to speak about things. But I didn't endure any like long periods of bullying like I know some people have. I think mine was probably that I so desperately wanted to be seen and I wanted to express myself and to have some sort of recognition for something. And because that didn't readily come, I think that was quite hard because some parents are just naturally not that way inclined, are they? Like, I remember overhearing a call of a friend when I was 25 and her dad on the other end saying like, I'm so proud of you. I just need to know I'm so proud of you for everything you're doing and achieving. And that was so new to my ears. Like, I was like, oh my, wow, I would never hear those words, even though I know my dad is. But some people are more vocal than others. But depending on what needs you have, you need certain things, don't you? And I think because I'm quite critical of myself, I just needed more reaffirming of the good things.
I'm the same. I feel like I probably do Maybe they do. I feel like they are proud. My parents. Yeah,
They will
but I
be.
don't. Unlike
I
you, I
think
don't know if
some
I've ever
people
heard them
just
say
find
it. I don't know. I'm trying to think. If God, if they listen to this and they think, yeah, I have said it, maybe you haven't. I'm so sorry, but I really just don't remember. You know.
I don't think you'll be alone either. There's a woman who's 30, I think she's 39 in our community. She'd said her dad said it to her as well the other week, and she was like, whoa. And that's crazy, isn't it? When we think that if we're getting to 39 and 40 and we've not heard that, like that many people won't have.
Yeah.
It's a lesson for anyone that's a parent listening as well. Like, don't underestimate the really little things. Because, like you just said, your parents
Yeah.
will be proud of you, and like mine are with me. But I think people just take for granted that
Yeah.
words and speaking good things to someone is huge.
That's why I say to
Massive.
my son, because he's a lot older than my daughter, 5 years difference. But I tell him after his basketball game every time, and even if he's made loads of mistakes, which he is, and I'm pretty hard on him. But I do say I'm proud of him too. And if I get it wrong, I can feel it in me. I'm like, I don't want to say sorry to him, but I do. Like, I'm going to be brutally honest here. There are times where I know it's the right thing to do. And there's a part of me that probably I can sense from other people in their life. I go, I'm the dad though. I'm not going to say sorry to him. Hell no. But I do. Like, I know how important it is. So I actually make sure he knows that when I'm sorry, I am sorry. I have to swallow the pride big time. And I feel it. So I then translate that to whether other people back in the past, whether it's a family, parents, whatever it may be. I go, that's why they struggle to do it. I get it.
Yeah.
But I do force myself to do it.
And what you're describing is just the vulnerability of it, though. Brené Brown does a lot of work on this, like how to parent, lead, and something else, like as in with vulnerability. Because for a parent to say that, it is hard. The parent's admitting, like, I don't know, to say, I'm sorry, yeah, I'm kind of flawed as well. I'm not perfect. So that's really
And
hard for a
wisdom
parent.
versus age as well. I think some people think they are more wise because they are older or they are the parent. But I want my son to go and get. I've traveled a lot around the world. I've been to a lot of countries. I've got a map just here above, and I tick off where I've been. And I've done. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot more than I haven't done that I want to do. But I've done a lot, and I want my son to go and do way more than I ever did. Do you know what I mean? And he will, but I feel like I set him up to do it because I talk about my travels and where I've been in the world. Hopefully, only hopefully, he gets inspired to go and do that. If he doesn't make it as a basketball player or whatever he wants to be, he goes and wants to do that. I'd love him to do that. As much as you probably won't be with me, I'd love to hear that he's in India or he's in South America doing these things. I'd love to see that. I'll push him to do that for sure. And then he'll become more wise because I think the more you see and experience, your wisdom builds up. Doesn't matter that I'm older than him. He'll just have different experiences, right? So
it's what you talk about as well, though. I really think that kids and like even teenagers, they'll take so much more from what they're actually seeing rather than what someone's saying to them.
Yeah.
So if you show pictures, and you're doing this now even with your work.
Yeah, I guess.
Your whole work, leading your own way, he will see that. That in itself will be ingrained in him. That there's
Maybe
other
he
ways.
takes over if it's massive. Who knows?
Maybe. When you've popped your clogs, he'll
Leading
see
our
you.
own way is now yours. Go and interview these amazing, wonderful people that are doing the same thing.
You'll pass the baton on, Andy.
So, okay. So, we've talked a little bit about high school. What do you get into? You obviously go to sing publicly at 21. That continues. But what do you do professionally? What do you do then? Yeah, anything.
Oh, everything. I was still fumbling around then. From 16, basically, I started college for a month or a month and a half and then didn't stay. And I've worked ever since. I did the 4 A levels, but the only one I absolutely loved was the psychology. And was told I was really good and it was a shame to leave it, but I couldn't stay doing one. So I did loads of different jobs, as in loads of different industries. I mean, sales or admin or retail management. I worked my way up to management quite early on as well in retail. Until when I got to 24, 25 was when I left the mentoring in the school to pursue the music.
Yeah.
And that's when the journey then became all self-employment after that. of vocal coaching, and then merging my love for psychology and doing workshops with the personal
So you
development.
kind of brought the love that you had at college that you quit back into play, I suppose.
Yes, I did, because it was from, I started basically writing this book, which is still there now, called My Beautiful Life, as the journey of a girl trying to find herself and just all the trials and tribulations of life. I was obsessed with seminars, self-help books. I've invested thousands in therapy and 4 different therapists over my life at different phases, trainings and things, a counseling course. I've gone off what you was asking now, but
You brought
oh yeah,
psychology
I
back
brought
into
it
it.
back
Yeah.
to psychology. Yeah, I found a way to self-educate myself for years, and it'll forever be a practice to keep learning about all this stuff, and passing it forward.
And I love that. I'm interested in the therapist stage before we go back into your line of work, your therapist stage. Did you do that to educate yourself, like you just mentioned, self-educate yourself? Or is there a reason why you went into therapy? Why did you go to see 4 therapists? Or even just the start of the
There was
first
always
one,
a
why did you go
reason.
to see it in the first place? There's a why. I feel like there's a why here. Maybe it's something we've touched on, or is there something deeper than that?
Oh, there definitely is. The first one was, I was just low. I was just flat. It was that phase you get to when you're just like, is this it? Is this going to be my life? That's when I was
Mm.
21, and I was like, just not fulfilled. I was in an office job,
Uninspired.
bored, really bored, really uninspired, and just thought, this
Yeah.
can't be it. Like, that's my intuition screaming. Like, I'm not happy at all. This can't be it. Just sad.
And there would have been
Teary
people at
days.
21 feeling the same thing, but and a lot wouldn't do anything about it. They'd have to go deeper before they come back up again. Why did you? What pushed you to see the therapist? Then what was that? If we put that line of connection and a circle around it, why did you see a therapist? Why did you go, right, pick up that phone and go, I need to book an appointment with you? What that was the train of thought there?
I was just so low. I remember vividly being on a outside of, well, I lived with my sister at the time in the Midlands, and we'd gone for a drink because I'd said, like, I wanted to talk or something, and we'd gone. I remember sitting outside and saying, like, I was almost giddy. You know, when you go past that point of sad, you're giddy because of nerves that you don't know how to even be. I was just felt lost. I was like, I need to do something about this because it just feels so bad. Sad, yeah. And I think she said, yes, speak to someone. So that first block was ones you can get on like NHS, you know, and you get like your first 7 sessions. And for anyone listening, that therapist, my first one at 21 was one that introduced me to the book Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And it changed my life. Like, it's just wrote so beautifully and so real in what you would be going through day to day, what people feel like a lot when enough is enough and you just feel stifled and stuck and like nothing's happening in your life. She got me to pursue the singing. That was why then the first time I sung was for an audition in London at 21 or 22. Because I read that book and it's about, you've got to feel this and do it anyway. And I knew that singing was what I just wanted to unleash. Like, it was something I was holding in so badly.
Yeah. Nice.
So she was my first therapist. My second one was because I sat there and said, hi, I think I've got an attachment disorder. One of these people that's Googled it, or I've been reading loads myself and I'm self-diagnosing what my thing is.
What made you think you had a detachment disorder, though?
Yeah, attachment. Yeah,
Sorry, I
attachment.
said it wrong.
I didn't attach to people, to like relationships. It's okay.
I
It
was
means the
saying it
same
again in
thing.
my head,
Attachment or
and it was
detachment.
so wrong. Attachment disorder. I was doing the diss of the disorder before the attachment disorder. Sorry. Go
on. I just struggled to, have relationships, I think. I just did. I was often single.
So boyfriend, as in partners, not friends, or just partners?
Yeah. Yeah, just partners. I always had loads of like friends and groups.
You dump the guys, the poor guys, you
But
get rid of them?
Oh, no, I just either wouldn't entertain the idea of it. I'd be single for ages. Or when I did, it would be like 3 months. And then I would always freak out. And there'd be like
What'd you freak out about?
either a run. Well, at that point, I didn't know. That's what I mean. You don't really know why you're doing things. You just think this isn't going to work.
Do you know now?
And I think ultimately, I think I've got a deep-rooted thing that I'm going to disappoint people. I'm going to disappoint them. So somewhere along the line, this won't work out. So I'm going to end it before we realize it's going nowhere. And that is like attachment disorder. It's out of order. You're breaking a thing before it's even at a reason to do that, or you're attaching too quickly and you get like, oh my God, I'm so into this person, and you don't even know them yet.
What I've noticed through interviewing people, there's always seems to come back to a common part, and that what you've just said there seems to, and I could be wrong because there could be something else that has happened, but it feels like it's that praise thing. I don't know why.
Not being good enough for someone.
Interesting.
Yeah, because to love someone and attach, you have to, it's really vulnerable. You have to think, they can like me. I'm likable. I'm lovable. I'm enough. I'm good to be around. If you don't inherently think those things, they're going to come up quite soon, and you'll either push people away or you'll create arguments to test people. Just all really common things. But that's when I was like 24, and I thought, I don't want to be on my own forever. And so I went, and then it's funny when you go with a certain idea in your mind and you end up unpicking actually about how much you love yourself. It's not, but you can never attach to someone if you don't like yourself. And I was never thinking about what I wanted.
Yeah. And that's sad. When we met, I remember you had a partner at the time, because I remember we were going out one evening with work and he dropped you off at my place. How long was you with him at that time? Wasn't a 3-month thing, was it?
No, he was actually one of the longer ones. I survived and lasted about 9 months, I think that was, maybe.
And
I ended it with him as well.
Yeah, I remember. I think you remember you telling me that at work. I recall.
It's funny though, because like you can look at it now as just what it was, and you'll never know whether it was genuinely not right and actually you're acting out of intuition, just didn't feel right. I wasn't happy. That could very legitimately be the thing. But you're never gonna know until I think you get older and you actually notice what love is and what it actually is to be vulnerable. Back then, when you're in your 20s, I don't think people really know love is, because people don't really know themselves. Like
you still have to go with what you feel because you've got nothing else to go off.
Yeah.
So
that was my second.
I was about to say let's go back to that.
About attachment. The third one was,
just quickly before you go to the third one. Maybe we just covered it, but I feel like it's still a grey area in my mind. What was the, not diagnosis? Well, I'm going to use the word diagnosis, and maybe that's not an official word in that capacity, but what was her diagnosis on that? When you said, feel I got this, I've Googled it, and I feel like I've got the attachment disorder. What did she say at the end of it all?
That was a long phase. I was paying for therapy for her though, so there's loads of journeys of that. But it all comes back to, and this will be different for everyone. So again, like you said before, don't all quote what we say on this too much, because everyone's scenario is different. But how you attach to your own parents and the attachments you're viewing as you're growing up is massive to your idea of love and your idea of respect, or if you're loved and lovable enough. And with my mum and dad, they're still together to this day, but I do have to love them different. They've not got loads in common. Some parents, they can do everything together. I've got very independent parents, which comes with it like massive pros. Like I love that they're both independent and have their own things. But it wasn't like I wasn't the same person to like both of them. To my dad, I really wanted to impress him and do everything really well and just achieve, so he would think I was good enough. To my mum, she didn't want any of that. She didn't need that. It was just having her attention, just being me. So it was a bit of a disjointed, who do I need to be? And so that came out as in, how you think, what you think you have to do to get love is really real for everyone. Based on which parent you craved the love of more growing up. Not who you loved more, because you loved them both, but who you craved the love because you didn't quite get it the way you wanted. You'll often attach and link love then with that bar that you're trying to meet. And that from my dad was because I just, wanted him to say, you're awesome, well done, these grades are amazing. And that he's not that type of person. He wouldn't say that. Even to himself, he doesn't praise that way. So I think you have to look at how you first ever attached to your love, and that's always your parents or caregivers.
Interesting.
and explore
Agreed.
it.
Yeah, no, I agree. Okay, so your third one.
I think which order they came.
I mean, I suppose it doesn't really matter the order. But
Yeah, it doesn't matter. One of them, Sue, was because I was older. This was I think when the pandemic happened. And I was just overwhelmed. I was drained and depleted. This was when I had the business. Everything was going on. I was running workshops. I was giving to people. I was living in purpose. But again, that thing was in me that wasn't quite fulfilled. And there was that void. Like, why am I feeling drained? Why does this not feel something wasn't there? And that is when it really opened up about how damaging being a pleaser is. If you're really neglecting a big part of, are you full? Are you genuinely full in your day to day? So that was really, it was nice because that was a much more me adulting, because it was like 3 years ago. And she was definitely my most hard hitting therapist. Like, yeah, she would call me out on more stuff, like, well, you're creating this, you're allowing yourself to do this again. And that's good. I think when you get to adult, that's the part of taking responsibility for everything in your life is happening because of you in some way. You're the essence of everything happening and everything you're creating. So if something or a pattern keeps playing out, as hard as it is for some people to own, you've got a part in that.
Sure.
Because everything that's happening, every dynamic or every relationship is your part of that. So yeah, she really helped me look at like, why are we doing stuff? Why does that drain you so much? Why does that friendship drain you and not uplift you? And that's just being tapped into who you are. Like, I had to start listening to myself more.
Because I also, while we're on the subject, I also read on social media that in January 2013, we're going back a little bit, you did see a therapist around that time, but that was to help you take risk and understand yourself a little bit more.
I don't think which one that was.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm forgetting one.
Maybe that was that, but I read in your comments that you went to see them because you weren't taking risks and you wanted to understand yourself a little bit more. So my question to you there was, what were you not understanding about yourself? I mean, if you can remember, it was over a decade ago now.
I wonder if that was the first one when I started to sing and she said, you're going to have to let yourself be seen.
That makes sense.
Yeah. What was the question though there? How did you word the question?
Well, I just took it from the comments because I suppose my question there would be, what didn't you understand about yourself when you went to see that therapist?
That I'm more talented than I gave myself credit for, that I'm capable of more things.
I'm so glad you said that, because we need to be able to compliment ourselves and a little bit more in the world, don't we? So I'm glad you publicly just said that. I suppose kind of that's what I was reaching for, was to admit that you're better than what you maybe think you were, I guess.
Yes. But it's interesting that even when I say that, the words come out, but then only when you were talking it back did I let that sit in, as that I really believe it and I know it. So it is one thing that we can speak certain things, but really ask yourself, do I think I am though? Am I thinking I'm competent about what I'm doing day to day? And try and find however you will do that, you have to believe it.
Do you believe in it now?
You really have to. Yes, and it's getting more and more authentic because I work on that daily. It's always a practice. Even doing something like this.
Yeah, because you were a little bit nervous about this, weren't you? I think.
Yeah, well, better now because I'd done that first one, and that one I was really nervous about. But this, you've been so good at like prepping for this and, just explaining, and it feels really natural with you. As did with to be fair, the first one was only via phone. So I think I find that a little bit more difficult. It's different when I can see you. But yeah, I think believing that you can take risks and nothing horrendous is going to happen. You can always U-turn. You can always change the job, but then you can always find another one. It doesn't mean you're stuck there then. I think I was just always so scared to be seen. To be seen in case people thought, what an idiot. Why is she doing that? Why is she singing?
So if you can hear the clacking, that's my dog just walking in.
Oh, It's okay. It smells nice. Pitter
It's on
patter.
the wooden floors. This is carpet, but on the hallway is wooden floors, and I'm in my office, and the hallway is
Oh,
just there.
it's not too
I'll
loud.
remove
Don't
it
worry.
later, so you won't hear it, people who are listening. Okay, cool. Excellent. So, okay, I'm going to read a little thing that you sent me, if that's okay, about kind of, maybe it's a mission statement. Can I read it out to everybody? Would that be all right?
Yeah.
And then we'll
Yeah.
quickly just go through what you've set up, because you've set up a beautiful community over the last few years, coming from maybe around the 2017 mark. And I think it's important that people know about what you've set up and what you're doing based on. And I think really now from the episode, they can maybe the guests and the viewers, sorry, the viewers, not the guests, you're the guest. The viewers will be able to see that picture formed of why you've set up what you've set up. But I'm going to read it out if that's all right.
Yeah.
So everybody, this is what
Yeah.
Katie sent me. I think it's amazing. So here we go. A community for strong, determined and driven women, yet extremely loving and compassionate in their approach to life, work and others. Our mission is to understand ourselves and others so we can thrive, impact and influence those who need it most, whilst cultivating a fulfilling life for ourselves as we thrive. How did it, my first question to you is, how did it sound somebody else reading that out to you?
Really lovely. Like really lovely, because it feels real.
I read it out on purpose because I don't think mission statements much get read out by other people. Well, they do, but not public to the person who wrote it, if that makes sense. So that's why I did it. I wanted to see what you felt about your own thing and if it made you realize, no, that sounded exactly perfect and that's why I'm doing it.
Yeah, it did. I think that's what's nice then when you read that. It encapsulates exactly. I want women to feel that you can be driven and determined and ambitious and still nice and kind and giving back. It's not one or the other. You don't even have to, go for your dreams or have a vision, but then you see, but then I might be too selfish. I should just please and be really nice. You can do both. Like, look at people you look up to or influence you, and they're all the
that
things.
Translates to everything, I think. I think it translates to leaders. You don't have to tick the boxes and sacrifice your colleagues and the people you're supposed to inspire to get what you need to get done to make yourself look good as a leader. It's about embracing everybody, strengths and weaknesses, and hearing them and just being open and honest, right? But layers to it, have to look after yourself in order to do that better. You say compassion in there. You didn't list that as one of your values, and the difference between empathy and compassion is empathy is empathy is where you obviously put yourself in somebody else's shoes and you imagine you can help them to a certain point. Compassion is when you actually physically put yourself in a position to help them, and you put the word compassionate in there because when people are over empathetic, I think that's when when the brain doesn't finish that loop of helping, we can actually become quite down and depressed. So some very empathetic people can become very down because they're not being able to put themselves in a position, like this. You know what I mean? Does that make any sense?
Yeah. It does, because a lot of nurses suffer with that as well. There's a name for it. It's when you use it too much, that then you don't separate into yourself enough.
So you being here is compassionate. You are putting yourself in a physical state to help other people. So you're not just empathetic, you're definitely very compassionate. And I'm glad you included that in there. So let's talk about what you've set up for part of your, I suppose, I believe I've set up this because this is therapeutic to me. I'm assuming this is therapeutic for you too.
Oh, yeah. It soothes me when I'm in workshops, when I'm actually coaching in person. It fills me up. It's not the drain, it's the opposite. I leave feeling full because it just feels aligned with what I'm supposed to do. I believe I'm supposed to guide people from their A to B and just to be that light for people. Or I know what I do well, like specifically with coaching. So it's really nice when I can see their patterns and you can simplify something and you can reduce someone's overwhelm straight away and give them a really good perspective. Because not everyone can do that on their own, the same way I can't problem solve some things on my own that, might be to do with maths or software or tech. Everyone's got their unique thing. It's interesting you mentioned the word compassion, though. I asked all my community to list 3 words that they would describe themselves in the best light. So there was no room here for them playing down, like, dulling themselves down. And I then pulled out of all, like, there's 84 women in the community at the minute, currently growing. And I pulled out the top words, and compassion was one of the ones most often used for them all. So I knew I had to bring that into the whole statement, because it's them. It's what the community is about. It's not just me.
All right. I like it. So let's talk about them. The names, I've got them here, but it's better to come from you. Let's start with 2017. You list this to me. You set up something called School of Hearts.
Yes. Oh, it was the first baby of a business, because that was my first time having it. I'd done coaching before, vocal coaching, but it was like KB coaching and just vocal coaching, of what it says on the tin. School of Hearts was around School of Hearts, as in it's heart-centered, factored in performing arts. It was dance classes, it was vocal coaching, and it was bits of, like, working on emotional fitness. That's when I started to do bits of one-to-one coaching as well as the vocals. But that was my first time fully flyering out and having classes and trying to promote things, paying for advertising. That was my first time stepping out as the young me that wanted to express myself. I was doing it all. And that was like, I don't know how old I was then, 28?
That was, what,
maybe
7 years ago? How old are you now?
37.
Or 30?
I'm stuck of all these. Yes, I was 30, because I remember. I remember the year, actually. This vision board here, I don't know if you can see it on there, but this was done that year.
Vision boards. I like that you're doing the vision boards. I like to call them action boards.
Yeah. It's the same, isn't it? Because you want to action everything on there.
Vision. Tara Swart talked about in The Source. She talked a lot about neuroplasticity, and she likes to call them action boards. I think she calls them action boards. I'm sure she does. But putting pictures of how you, I suppose, vision, and we want to put it into action, but understanding the steps to get there too. She's amazing. I'm actually trying to get her on the podcast, if I'm honest, because it's not so much. She's amazing. She's like #1 neuroscientist in the world, but it's more about her journey. She was a doctor and why she left doctoring, and she lived here in Australia, and ups and downs, separation from a marriage. I'd love to talk to her about her journey. But she's going to be really hard to get on, just because she's so busy. But action.
Determined.
But the action board. I'm glad you've got an action board. What does your action board look like now?
Ooh. Well, it's older now, though, because it was done on that year, but there's a lot on it that says visions, purpose. Imagination has no age, turning reality into your dreams, be your beautiful self.
And
the real deal.
And the things simple. You put on there then, do you feel like what you see there is now part of your life?
Yeah, because there's things on there that's like, it's Cornwall, it's coastal.
There you
go. A lot about space. And I do try and factor that in my life quite a lot, like space to think and to be. But it's still all work in progress. There's still so many goals I want to achieve and reach.
Yeah, nice. So it says here in your timeline, April 2018, you relocated and moved the business to, I can't pronounce it. How do you pronounce it? Truro? Cornwall. Is that that's in Cornwall?
Yeah, that was Cornwall.
Is that the same town you're in now?
No, but it's the city. So it's the same place as in, like, county, the same. I basically had the idea, in short, I had the idea for School of Hearts when I was living in Cornwall. And I got funding. My first bit started with funding. And I moved up north back to Bury, though, to do it, because it was going to be bigger, it's more populated, and it was my hometown. But I lasted 6 months and then came back. But I brought all the business with me. It still stayed. I just missed it, and I knew I just needed to be down by the sea. I would make it work one way or another, even though it is a smaller place. And from there, though, that is when the focus then remained on personal development, and I started actually doing the workshops in personal development.
What do you call your workshops now then?
They've got different names. They are personal development workshops, but I need something more compelling. I feel now it needs to upgrade the way these are worded. Because it's quite a broad term, isn't it, personal development? But they usually say on their character workshop, or this one this week is raising the game for yourself. So, like, raising your expectations for things that you're expecting for yourself. And yeah, they were all different ones. One was like connection versus confidence, past self versus future self. I loved them. There was just there's so many ways you can look at things with people and what women want to look at. And we just, we brought things together.
What about leading women to lead?
That happened as a rebrand during the pandemic, because things just changed and everything went virtual, as we know. And it had changed from all School of Hearts by that point. Obviously, I'd grown, I'd evolved. It was a lot more all personal development, vocal coaching on the side. But it became an online membership.
That's still going?
And it did become... No, changed because of I didn't want to stick with online anymore. Neither did the women in the community. So that was a really joint thing that we all wanted to get back in person again. And I just changed, I think, because I'd grown and evolved. It did become around me wanting to lead women to lead in their own life, similar to your path of leading our own way. It was less about then just expressing yourself. It was grab the reins. You can do so much more with this expression. So yeah, leading women to lead was that kind of stopgap to me. It was like, how do I do this now with, I can't meet anyone, I can't see anyone. And that was like 2 years that lasted for like online.
And the next one that you started only more recently, talk to us about that one before we come to the end.
It's the one. It's the one, Revival. Yeah, I think so. I think ultimately you're always I like to think it's come full circle, because what I was always trying to do in the first place when I was 28 and moved away to start new was revive myself, to find myself. And it's just been the whole journey of what it's took to, go through 2 heartbreaks and then revive yourself after that. It's trying to find the women now and bring the women together that they are similar. They're in that phase where they need to revive themselves and they're sick of feeling low, like less than, and just operating so below their potential of what they're capable of.
And for those,
so revival,
I love that. But I am going to show another picture now, and this is Katie in action, being very serious.
I look so serious on that picture. I do. That was at that event we spoke about earlier, where it was the sellout one, the networking one. So I was tense. I know, even from that the picture, I wasn't maybe tense, because then I was just listening to someone speaking. But that night, I felt the pressure. I felt like tense. But I was listening.
I'm going to embarrass you slightly. There's a few more here that I'm going to quickly show.
Naked baby picture.
There's one saying familiar, feeling right, and then why do I always feel like this? And then there's a picture of you just looking up.
That was join leading women to lead. That place where my computer was then through the pandemic was where so many things took place, so many online events and workshops.
And this was also during the pandemic as well, wasn't it? Have you still got them? Drink bottles with women power on it?
I've got it here.
Nice. There you go. Perfect. Well, you look happy. That's the main thing.
It was just lonely though. God, for everyone, wasn't it? There was just, how do you drum up inspiration seeing no one? Especially when you're running communities, to do that for people. So it was a good challenge. How I keep myself inspired
good came from it though, that's for sure.
I miss it now. I liked it a bit, not from the work sense, because I love my work in person, but I like downtime, chill time. I can sing, I can write music.
You can force yourself into that situation. You don't need a pandemic for that to happen.
I know. Yes, we were speaking about this a couple of months ago, that the things that you're craving and would want back, find a way to just put that in.
But this is the thing, we've invented all these things that are distracting us. Put do not disturb on your phone. It's on my phone right now, so I can be present with you. Like, this is all on do not disturb. You cannot phone my phone right now, and I do that quite a lot throughout the day as well now. I just do it.
It's so healthy though. I turn my phone off at night, like fully off, and people think it's crazy. They're like, what, you just turn it off? What if people need you? And I'm like, when I'm asleep. It's like...
I always look back at how we used to live. What would we have done before? So you can physically make it happen, because we were able to survive then. I want to get to a point where I leave my phone in another room, but you're right, just turning it off would be the same sense. Yeah, well,
practice it's like that though. I leave it at home more often sometimes now if it's a walk and stuff and I don't need it.
Yeah, I mean, the modern world is if somebody does really need, it's like I've got a cellular watch, so I can just take that out, listen to my music still. If I don't want to be present on my walk and listen to music on my podcast, I do find that relaxing. But sometimes I make an effort just to walk without a podcast and just be with my dog, or if I'm walking with somebody. But then if somebody does need me, somebody can phone me, but I'm not going to be distracted by social media or checking a post or whatever. You know what I mean? Because anyway.
And even the device itself, though, we have so much linked to it and associated to it. Even looking at it, you will think of work.
Yes, so true.
So it's God,
well, that's why I've become a casual teacher, because I don't need to think about any emails anymore. Boom.
That's why you've become
a casual teacher.
Right, yeah. I thought you said a casualty.
Oh, no. I have been one of those. We're a casualty of life, aren't we?
Yeah. There's a song called Casualty of Love by Jessie
You're
J.
one of those too, aren't you? Yeah. We all are, I suppose. Yeah. Okay, 2 questions before we end it then. If we've missed anything off this podcast and you think it was one really important thing to share, what would it be?
The thing in my head is why I ever got the idea and wanted to do the work I now do is because when I was 28 and I moved away, when I was in a low point one day at my house, I remember thinking there is nowhere for a woman to go that when you've been at uni or even you've worked for a few years, whether you're 25 or whatever, you've come out of the chain effects of things that are supposed to happen. You're in the working life and adult life. From there, that phase where you might just be in a low and you're just living beneath your potential and stuff, other than go to therapy, where would the woman go? Unless you feel you're really messed up or there's some big issue to take to therapy, women, that is when we will sit, and men as well, but it's just because I work with women. Where do they go that they can just get support and someone to believe in them and someone to say, well, let's look at your options? A lot of women and most women won't go or think to go to therapy as their first point of call because they think that is the stigma attached to it is that you have to be really messed up or you have big issues. But I just knew deep down, I knew I had so much more to me, so much potential that I wasn't using. But a lot of people haven't got the support network that supports that or encourages that because people are busy, they're not all thinking about each other person. So where does that woman go? And I just thought I need to create this where you create the space and the workshops where it's where you come and develop. You don't have to have massive issues or anything, like we all will at some point, but that is why this began. Revival is about the woman that knows she's worth more, but doesn't know where to go, doesn't know where the resources are, can't afford therapy, some people.
I find that I love it, and I find it fascinating because of your self-doubt beforehand, and you question yourself to then wanting to do this. Is there a middle part of what was the low point for you to, we talked about that crisis point. What was that point though that made you go, because you just said it, I've got to do it. But what made you realize that? What was the pinpoint? If we went down on a microscope right down to the lowest point, the root, or have we covered that bit? I feel like there's something deeper.
No, I would say it was an abusive relationship, but emotionally abusive, not physical.
Okay, here we go. This is what I'm thinking.
Coming out that phase when that thought came in that I need to do something about this because I can't live like this or feel like this. There's other women feeling like this. I know there is. It was like I knew there was comfort somewhere out there. It was it was a narcissistic relationship. So you end up very lost at the end of it. I'm sure if people listen and experience anything like that, manipulation and things, you end up lost in a whole other way that you really don't know. Sometimes your reality is so skewed. I knew that it couldn't happen again. I knew that this had to stop happening and I had to stop losing myself to things and giving up all my needs.
Do you think you could pin a...
So yeah, that wasn't...
Because I went and studied narcissism after my bullying as well, so I feel like I can see a narcissist a mile off now. Do you feel like you can see a narcissist a mile off now?
I think so, and it's more an energy thing as well. I kind of go off energy. because sometimes with narcissists, the point of them being narcissists is it's very hard because they're so good at it, some of them.
Oh, well, that's the other, there's different types of narcissists, isn't there? Of course.
Yeah.
But I do feel, yeah, you're right. It is the energy, 100%. And that's probably what I meant by I can tell a mile off. When I spent 10 minutes with them, I feel like I can see, it's not even though you know in the moment, is it? It's just spotting certain traits and going, okay, I'm going to keep my eye on this now. What type of things happened to you during that relationship that was narcissistic then?
A lot of blame, me thinking it was my fault all the time. There's always the problem with me.
How old were you at this point?
30. I turned 30.
So you were living down south then?
Yeah. But again, it was subtle things, but it was, I think the dangerous thing with narcissism is it's the lack of responsibility on their end. So you end up carrying it and like you just think you're responsible for all these things. And then the play on words, you know, things like, well, you should do that. And that's the gaslighting. You really think, oh, did I say it that way? Like, and they twist things. They twist the reality. The gaslighting. So yeah, you just end up feeling your head genuinely is in a bad place because it's finding it very hard to regulate because it's trying to think so many different things all the time because they try and call you out.
Was he empathetic at all? I mean, I'm guessing not. Okay.
No.
Self-entitled?
No. He was just a bit inept in that way as well. Like he didn't. Entitled, yes.
Do you have it?
The whole idea with narcissism about that grandiose feeling and superior, yes.
Did he have nice things? Did he like to dress nice and have nice things?
No. See, there's isn't overt and covert. There's the one that's the grandiose. They will have this lavish outlook of life. No, he wasn't that. He was more. I think it's more the vulnerable narcissist, isn't it? They feed on people because they're very insecure themselves. So you wouldn't know it.
Because you come of you're one of 3 girls. What was he? Was he the only child, or was he one of many as well?
One of 2. Just him and his brother.
That's unusual. It's normally either one or a lot more, but usually it's not always, obviously. It's interesting about the background, whether it was over-parented or under-parented, I suppose. Usually is the root cause of narcissism. But anyway, that's what I've read.
I know there's a whole other story I could go into with that because I know the background of everything, and that is also why you end up falling, I'd say victim for lack of a better word, falling victim to those sorts of things though because you empathise so much. So often they've got a backstory and you buy into that and think, oh, you feel sorry for them though. I understand them, but
doesn't.
When over time it's to the absolute detriment of yourself.
Serve you, does it?
It's not love. Yeah,
so that was the root cause of you
realizing that it can't happen. Like I need to stop treating myself like I'm worthless. That was like the pattern of from my 20s of then avoiding relationships, or if I did get in them, they weren't like healthy ones because I'm showing up without value. I'm showing up as if I don't really matter because I've not achieved anything really. So I just knew at that point when I was 30, it has to change. I have to start being something that I'm proud of so this stuff doesn't happen again.
Because going off that map of life where you think it's all going to fall into place, that is the area where you think, well, this is the person I could be with for the rest of my life. I'm reaching that point where, you know what I mean? Does that make sense? So it is.
It gets scary because I definitely remember those moments of thinking, if I stay in this, like this might be it. Because once you're so far in, I think that's when people end up married for 10, 20 years.
Yeah.
You go past points. So I think catch yourself. Even if you're someone now listening to this and it has been 10 or 20 years, you are never stuck. I always say to women in the workshops and stuff, this lie that we tell ourselves that you do feel stuck, but you're not. No one is. And there is always a way, always a way. Just talk to someone and someone will be going through something similar, or someone will know someone that has been through it. And helps you navigate so you actually feel strong enough to leave and stay like left or stay away from them, because you'll often go back. It's crazy. Just to add the other level of vulnerability in case anyone is listening, I would plead with him to please, like, understand me. I only mean this and that. It's like we want to plead to get the love back, even when it's horrible in the first place. So it's crazy, but it's very real.
Yeah.
When you're in it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I've never been in a narcissistic relationship in terms of a partner, but I've been in a narcissistic relationship in terms of a workplace for sure, a few times.
That's awful though as well, because you'd almost think that would be a more shocking, or like with a partner you can maybe understand because you don't know. I just think that work would be really hard because you're not prepared for that in a workplace.
I mean, I can't comment on anyone in a relationship. I can only imagine that's dangerous because you're living in the same house as them and you don't know what they're capable of going to do. That to me is dangerous. But I did feel my hands were tied. And it's probably 10 times worse for me because, not for me, I mean, at the workplace for me, in my scenario, than it probably would have been if I was Australian. I was sponsored by the school. I think anyone that went through what I went through would have felt exactly the same, but probably would have just left and just quit and gone and got another job. But because I was sponsored by the school, I had to stay at the school. No, I didn't have to. I could have quit and gone and got another job at another school, but I would have had to convince the other school to then sponsor me as well, which cost money. When they could have just got another Aussie off the street and employed them and not have to go through all that rigmarole to sponsor me on the visa that I was on. So yeah, anyone not knowing that probably could have gone, he just could have quit. He could have left, but I couldn't. I couldn't have left.
Well, that's what people say about their relationships as well, isn't it? They always think, you could have just left and not been with them. Like,
it's not easy.
I just want to backtrack and say, I wasn't meaning for anyone listening that it's worse if you're in a work scenario. I think for me, because work was the escape and you at least go off and you do your life, you have work and stuff. Whereas if it was in the workplace every day, like when people do have toxic bosses and things, or narcissist bosses that put you down in front of everyone.
Yeah, I mean, the flip side to that is
neither
you can go home to a loving partner, right, and have a nice evening. But I was distracted. I was on the couch and just lie with my dog, and I didn't know what to do. I was not far off wanting to end it all. And I've only really opened up about that in the last 2 years. I didn't want to be here anymore. I was done. Like, I was a shell of a man. I was quiet. I just changed completely. And I think people who saw me at work probably either didn't know something was wrong, but I definitely wasn't myself, or they thought it was my fault. Some people probably thought it was my fault, which is okay. I've settled with that now, but I know in my heart, all I wanted to do was go and work and get along with everybody. That's it. And, but yeah, I definitely lost who I was, and I didn't want to be a teacher anymore. Didn't want to be in the body that I was in anymore. I was, but nobody would have seen it happening. That's the thing. Nobody would have seen those little incidental moments of those saying things to me, mean, horrible, rolling of the eyes. And it eventually went to them pushing me physically in front of people. And that's when the truth came out, because people that I'd vented to didn't believe me and then saw me get pushed and then went into complete shock themselves. And they won't mind me saying it because we've spoken about it 100 times since. But they saw me being pushed. And that was then they went into shock, seeing that and then going, oh shit, he's been coming to me for months and I've not believed him. You know what I mean? So all that, they had to go through all of that too, right? So that was hard on them, I guess. But well, with one person.
It happens so subtly sometimes over time as well. When you said you were a shell of a man, by the end, it's so hard to realize how you've got to that point, but it's the constant put downs. So over time, you just do feel like a shell of a person. It was small. And the humiliation, that's bad. The humiliation, I remember stuff like that.
Yeah, I wasn't publicly humiliated. I was definitely silently humiliated in meetings, for example, but no one would see it. It was ridiculous. So then you sound like you just make it up and you sound crazy and you sound like you're a defensive child. You know, how many times have been called a defensive child? Well, no, hold on. Put it into context so you understand the little details, you know, but no, nobody wants to hear it. But there you go. They'll hear it now.
I know.
So
thank God you're free. Thank God we're out of these things.
Say that again.
Thank God we're free and out of these things.
Yeah, I'm never putting myself in that position again.
It is really nice being on the other side.
Yeah, 100%.
You learn from it.
Well, then again, I never thought I put myself in that position, so I don't know if I have a control over it 100%. I think I'm just more aware now, and hopefully I've got the skill set to deal with it better. You know, I mean, I was 32 at the time. I thought I was pretty old. But no, clearly not.
Happens at
No,
any age.
that's right, and that's what I've learned. But okay, well, I answered that. I asked that question if there was anything that we missed, and you seem to have answered it really quickly and really well. And you didn't have to think about it. So I'm going to ask it again because I feel like maybe we have. If there was anything that we missed off this podcast episode that you felt would be beneficial, what would it be? If there's anything, there might not be anything, but if there was anything, is there anything else that you'd like to share?
I'd say that if anything that I stand for massively, it's that you're so capable of changing, like who you are as a person. You might think you're so set in who you are today and who you've been, but my God, there's so much more. There's so much more. So just know that, yeah, you're capable. There are so many opportunities, and you've just got to get around the right people, get in the rooms, whether virtual or in person or with certain friend circles, for people that you want to grow to be more like. Get around people that inspire you. Don't be around people that drain.
I like what you said before about
You'll
being
stay
in
there.
the arena. I'm going to use that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's true. It's been people that before me, mentors and coaches and things that I invested in. It's them genuinely that led the way, and friends that have had my back all the time. You need that. You're the average of, I think, the 5 or 6 people that you're around.
Yes.
So if you ask yourself, anyone listening, who are the 5 or 6 people you see most of? Are you similar to them, or do you want to be more like them? If it's like a no, I'm not like them and I definitely don't want to be like them, ask what purpose they have in your life, because it might be this. You've still got circles around you that are from the past and
it's funny you say that, because there's been studies on it. Like if you've around friends who have separated from their husband or partner, the chances of you separating from your partner increases by, I don't know what percent, I've forgotten the study, but or you can translate that to losing weight, or the positive or negative of they've put on weight. You know, the chances are you will improve, you will do that, or you know, the other way as well. It can work both ways. It's interesting, isn't it?
You do. You become what you're
You've
around.
just touched on purpose, which is how I typically end the podcast, and you have touched on it, and I think I do know. Well, I definitely know it, but I want you to say, if you could put it into one simple line, what is your purpose, Katie?
My purpose is to instill the belief in everyone, not just women, that they are more than they could ever imagine. And I genuinely mean that. We're barely using what our brain is capable of. So imagine that we did get really clear and intentional with a belief. There's, like, as cliche as it is, there is no limits to what you can achieve.
Well, we now know it's not that we use only 10% of our brain. It's because we don't know how to use the rest. We do have full capacity to use it. We used to believe we can't access certain parts of the brain. That is now false. We now know that. So it's just about understanding how to do it right, and putting ourselves in that position to look after the self and go for it, I guess. Thank you, Katie.
And that life is short. No,
Yeah.
just life is short. I do think it's too short. No matter what it is, whether it's a divorce you're facing or life is too short.
It's been a great episode, Katie. Thank you so much for joining me on my journey, leading our own way. You're helping me lead my own way. I wouldn't have this if it wasn't for you and the other guests that have joined me. So plenty of people will get a lot of learning from today, and be inspired by what you've done and why you're doing it, and now your purpose. And if I will put all of your information down in the show notes. So if anyone wants to contact you or reach out to you or just follow Katie's journey, I'll put everything down in the show notes as well. But thank you, Katie. I hope you've had a great time.
I have. It's been really nice. You've asked some great questions that, like, often you don't answer, like, or it's, you know, few and far between. It's amazing, and I love what you're doing. I hope everyone listening tunes into more episodes, because everyone that you seem to bring into this is leading that same path, one that's their own. So I was talking about get around people you want to be more like. Listen to this stuff and absorb it, because it's people living it and doing it.
I believe so, and thank you so much for your kind words. I hope people get on board and take pieces, even if they've just had a great life, just take a good feel story and enjoy it. And it's not for everybody, but hopefully people will tune in and get something from it. And even, because even if it's not them, they'll know people in their lives that need this stuff, right? And that's why I feel like it's beneficial for everybody.
Yeah, share the episodes. If someone comes to mind when you've
Yeah,
been listening to this, like share it with
absolutely.
them, because it just might change their
You
life. You
never
never
know.
know.
You just never know. But thank you so much. It's been amazing, and
Thank
I
you.
appreciate you joining us. And for everybody else, I will put all the information in the show notes. Thank you for joining Katie and I on this wonderful chat. And we'll see you next week for the next amazing guest. And we'll speak to you all soon. Have a great week.
Bye,
Bye.
guys.
Thanks for listening and watching Leading Our Own Way. So we can stay together forever and share more incredible journeys, please subscribe to the channel. That way you won't miss next week's episode and what that amazing guest has to offer to the world. Please support Leading Our Own Way, and we'll get you on next week's episode.